I think that the rating of around 82, 83 out of 100 by the game journalists is a fair rating for the Dragon Age Veilguard. And I'm saying this as a casual player, but being familiar with, in general, series that are taken by other studios. And how can I rate it as a fair rating? So, if you look on all the other games on Metacritic or something like that, I think it's the lowest rated out of all. So it's rated worse than Origin and so on. But also I think that many of the criticisms are not as valid from what I heard on the discussion, on the online discussion. And let me put let's compare with other series over time and see if those changes are justified. So let's take the most beloved series which you would think today. And we can start from Mario if you want. And we can see there are changes. But let's take a series like PC games. I would say Elder Scroll or Skyrim, some people know it like name. It is a series that changed. And in which way it changed? It changed in visual style, in how easy it was done, casualization. The story got a bit worse in the sense that, for example, most people will say Morrowind or Daggerfall had a very deep multi-layer story with an unreliable narrator, and Skyrim, it is basically a popcorn version of it. But most people would agree, at least sales concerned, that Skyrim, it is one of the best, if not the best in the series and in the styles of the games. Fallout series. Again, I will use Bethesda because they are very popular. They changed from a 2D clunky UI series to a quite streamlined shooter. I don't know if that's the best way to say, with very weak RPG mechanics, but still having them. And also, if you take the story, most people will say is quite weak. It has many holes in Fallout 4 when a person would do side quests, when they would look for the missing kid. That's surprising for me as a parent. And if you take only this as a grounding, let's look for other series. Far Cry. Far Cry visually changed drastically. You had initially you will start like from a jungle or a savanna, then you will go to some mountains, or you have Far Cry Red Dragon, if I remember right, with the neon style, or Far Cry Primal, or let's take Prince of Persia. Like, again, it started like a 2D game. It had a very bad 3D game. Then it gets to Sands of Time, which is quite cartoony, very cool, I would say, looking. And it got into very artistic styles, but it forked on into an Assassin's Creed, which again, it has many visual styles and stories. And again, we can, and it got into antiquity. And so I'm saying that when you think about visual style and stories, I say Dragon Age looks quite tame in comparison. What about the visual style? Again, look on the games. Warcraft. Again, Far Cry, all the games I said before, they have a very different style. When you look of Far Cry 1, for example, you can see that people are made like out of plastic. And later Far Cries, they look quite realistic. And not only them, the animals, the physics, there is always to burn some weed or things like that. And the style, it goes, again, depending on the vision of the artist. And this is, just to be very clear, this is on top of the other parts. And based on that, we can go to the main parts. Let's get the basics of these reviews. They notice that the visuals are great. And the visuals make, you want it or not, a game great. I don't want the game to be just visuals, but the visuals and presentation matter. And for this part, this game looks great. It's not Baldur's Gate 3, sure. Even though I would say the visuals could look even a bit better in my subjective view, but yes, cartoonish. But it is good. It has some RPG elements. Again, it is not Baldur's Gate 3, but it is good. It is also very well optimized, and people are really happy about how well it looks. It has around 30 hours of gameplay, if I understood correctly. And again, people would say some of them would drag a bit too long, but again, it's reasonably well for a product of this class. And if you sum them all, it looks great. But let's talk about the last item, which I think is kind of important. What about that you don't have gray morality, you don't have, or you have this trans view? And this is the part which I will not want to defend it, in the sense that I can see that the writing is worse, especially than the older series. And this is partially, as far as I understand, that many writers of the original team left. The people who wrote probably Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter Nights, or whatever were games before, and they wrote some expansions. And even though maybe all the stories were not so good, people learned out of them, and they wrote them better and better. So when they got to Jade Empire or KOTOR, they were getting good to write stories. And when they left or they were fired, the new replacements were not so good. So this is fine. I mean, you should take it as a minus. And what about the trans? And this is the part which I understood it the least. And why? Is because games quite often push elements of art and social commentary. So for people who are not aware, for example, the Witcher series partially comment on the world of Poland and the Soviet occupation. And even it is not written anything about Soviets, the world there is done in the same replica. It is influenced. So again, this is at least what is hoped to be told. And you may say, damn, we talk politics in Witcher games, and the Witcher is a very political game. But let's not talk politics, let's talk Dragon Age. You have games with lesbian relations. You can have characters with and not only here, in many games you have which have this RPG style. But if you go to older games, you could see some commentary like child slavery or killing children. And that's really messed up, but some games like Fallout explored those areas. Or to be by yourself as a player, a male prostitute, if you wanted, or things like that. And you could do all of this. And right now we removed some of them, or we added them. So what I want to say that artists sometimes push and they put their understanding on some social topics, and they can have their own commentaries. And you may go on the fence, or you may disagree with the stance. But to say that the games could not do a political stance is really quite limited. And here I will want to finish it. Is it Veilguard a game that you should buy it? And in my understanding, again, as a player who is a casual player, I would say probably I would not, because I'm not such a funny player, but waiting for a discount. So when the discount comes, yes, you should buy it. And if you take it in this vein, you can build the next subject, like, should you discard it as a game? And I would say, no, if that's what you want. It gives you, as far as I understand, around 30 hours of gameplay, very polished graphics. It keeps quite the spirit of Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a good game. And you can look later if it has a good DLC who is more morally grey, or you can make a commentary, hey, Dragon Age, make a morally grey story, and people, if you make enough with a petition, maybe they will make it a more morally grey. But if you don't want it and you want a really grim story, don't buy it. But this is a fake contradiction. Games do politics, and this game looks fairly well done, and the rating of 80 something is fair. And if you don't believe me, look for Digital Foundry's review, technical review, which they were quite pleased. And on the same token, a game who is rated at 95, which I really love it too, Elden Ring. See how well it performed, and it performs on even very fast machines. So all in all, I want to say that this game looks fair, and you may want to buy it. If that's it. Thank you for listening, and don't subscribe to me, excluding that you are Romanian and you look on the topics of philosophy, which I am commenting here. Thank you for listening. Bye bye. Enjoy playing the game. Bye.